Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is Tiffany, and I have had lots of people asking about my homemade pectin. So I'm going to go ahead and do one batch of pectin real quick. This is not normally when I do my pectin. I normally keep my scraps and I put them in the fridge or the refrigerator until I have time to do it. However, we're going to go and get it done. I still have apples in the juicer. It's doing its thing over here. These are apple scrapings as well as pulp from the juicer. And inside the juicer, I have little apples that are whole. Okay, so the core and everything is in there, peels, cores. Pectin is found in the core and peels and stems of the apple. And if you're watching this video, you probably know that we need pectin or gelatin to make our jellies. Now, when I make my apple jelly, I traditionally do not use any pectin. However, I have strawberries and raspberries and thimbleberries and service berries and huckleberries and currants and probably a few other million things. Rhubarb jelly. So there's all kinds of jellies that I make that absolutely have to have that coagulating agent, that pectin. So what I do is I use what a lot of times people would call the trash, and I'm actually going to extract the pectin out of these scraps. The first thing I do is I just find my bowl I'm going to use. I have some of the mush from the juicer in there. These are peelings from the apple butter. So when I make apple butter, I take the cores obviously out and I peel the apples. So that's just some of those. And I'm just going to put water in here until it almost covers the apple pieces. All right, and there you have it. So we have the apple pieces in there. We've got the water basically right at the top. We don't want it covering the pieces as they cook. They will actually go down into the water. If you get too much water, it's not the end of the world. Just cook it out. I'm going to put the lid on it so that it gets to a simmering temperature faster. But then once it gets to a simmering temperature, I'm going to remove the lid and I'm going to let it simmer for a couple of hours. I'm going to stir it periodically, probably every 15 or 20 minutes, whenever I think about it, to be honest. It'll take a couple hours. You'll start to see a difference in the water. It'll be thicker. It'll be more viscous. It'll be more like a syrup almost, but not quite as thick as a syrup. And then we're going to know that it's done and we'll pull it off to filter. All right, I'm going to get this started. Okay, so we have cooked down the apple pulp down to this gooey mush, basically. It's pretty sticky. All of the moisture has been cooked out of it for the most part. What we're left with is this really thick, sticky syrup, basically, with a bunch of pulp in it. Now what we got to do is we've got to separate what's left of the liquid, which is the pectin, from the apple pulp. So we're going to use my jelly or my jam strainer here. I have 3 layers of cheesecloth, and then I just have it rubber banded at the top. And as you can see, the pectin is already starting to come out. This is not a fast process. So this will need to sit for many, many hours. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon right now. As this continues to filter, this pulp in the top will get a lot smaller, right? The cheesecloth is going to stretch down, and I will keep putting the pulp up in the top. And I'm not planning on doing anything else with this pectin until tomorrow. So I will let it sit all night long and really just keep dripping that pectin out of it. It is not a fast process. Now, for those of you with little kids, or like myself, I have an autistic son. So it becomes an issue of like safety for the filter when it has to sit for that long. A bucket works great. So I'll clean this bucket up really, really well. And then I'm going to set my pan in the bottom of the bucket, the filter in top, and that protects it for its long stay on the freezer. And then if we do need to like get in the freezer or anything like that, we can just pick up the whole bucket and move it and don't have to worry about this apparatus falling apart. So that is where we are at. We are going to be filtering that pectin out. Now that pectin is ready to be used. Once we've got it into this pan down here on the bottom, we're going to put it into jars, and you can either hot bath it like you would a jelly and seal it, and then it's counter stable, or you can use it right away, which is what I'm going to do because I ran out. Or you can leave it in the jar and put it in the refrigerator, and it'll last for many, many months in the refrigerator. I've had pectin that I hot bathed and left in the cabinet for multiple years, 4, 5, 6 years. It still works great. This apple pectin is really, really great for your jellies. Okay, so we got that pan into this jar. We got a little under half of this quart out of that 1 apparatus. I have several others going. These are colanders with cheesecloth, and they're just draining into bowls. So you can see though, when you swish it around, it kind of holds up on the side because it's thicker, where this is the apple juice, and you can see it's a lot thinner, but they're about the same color. They're gonna be that red apple color. So then what do you do with the mash? It's trash now, right? Not yet. So then my mash, after I've made my pectin, still has another use. It still has another life. So what I do is I put it in this bags, plastic bags, and I freeze it in my freezer. In the winter, resources are low. There's not a lot to feed my hogs or my livestock, and so I ferment grain. This mash is amazing in your fermented grain. It really kickstarts the fermenting process. It allows it to ferment at a lower temperature, which is huge for me because it's cold in all of my sheds and barns. It really changes the molecular buildup of my fermenting grain, and it really helps that fermented grain to just really feed my livestock better. So I put these in bags like this. I fill this bag about halfway. I'll tie it shut, and then I just drop that down in the freezer. Once it gets cold enough outside, so mid-October or so, I actually move these out to a tote in one of the sheds, because there's no reason for it to be taking up room in my freezer when the great outdoors is a freezer. And so then what I'll do is I'll grab a bag and I'll throw it in. So about half of one of these bags tied shut, and then it eventually goes outside in a tote. Or if you're in a warmer climate, you'll need to keep it in your freezer until you're ready to use it. I will work on doing a video on how I ferment my grain using this is what I call my apple mush. So it goes from being pulp, so it goes from being scraps to pulp to apple mush, and the apple mush is what I put in my fermented feed. So that is pectin. Again, if you want to store this long-term, years at a time, put your lid on it, put your ring on it, hot bath it for 10 minutes. If you don't know how to hot bath something, please see our video on jelly making. I go over how I hot bath and the general process of hot bathing. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.